A South Texas town brought to its knees after a teen gunman opens fire inside an elementary school, leaving 19 children dead.
April 16, 2007 started like any ordinary Monday at Virginia Tech. But by 9:51 a.m., 32 innocent lives were lost, and the campus was changed forever. Here's the final 24 hours of famous school shooters.
Today marks 10 years since what was at the time the deadliest shooting carried out by a single gunman. On April 16, 2007, 32 people were killed on the campus of Virginia Tech.
April 16, 2007, Virginia Tech's campus in Blacksburg, Virginia, starts the day with nothing out of the ordinary. But by mid-morning, it will stand as the site of the deadliest school shooting in American history. The shooter, Seung-Hui Cho, a 23-year-old senior majoring in English, was a young man marked by a lifetime of silence, isolation, and deeply troubling red flags that would be overlooked until it was too late. Seung-Hui Cho was born on January 18, 1984, in South Korea. From his earliest years, he rarely spoke, so much so that relatives suspected he might be mute. His mother agonized over his sullen, brooding behavior and unresponsive nature, saying she'd rather have him simply acknowledge her than be a good and meek child. The family struggled financially in Korea, living in a 2-room basement apartment, scraping by on a used bookshop. Cho's father had worked construction in Saudi Arabia before marrying into a farming family that had fled North Korea during the war. In 1992, when Cho was 8, the family finally secured visas to join relatives in America, settling in Centerville, Virginia, near Washington, D.C. Despite the hopes that a new country would help Cho find his voice, the silence continued. In school, Cho was painfully shy, unresponsive in class, and looked younger than his age. He was sometimes teased and bullied for his silent nature, mocked for his poor English and deep-throated voice when forced to speak. As a result, Cho disappeared into himself, choosing invisibility and isolation. Neighbors saw him shooting baskets alone and ignoring greetings, as if he were broken-hearted. He graduated from Westfield High School with a 3.52 GPA, benefiting from special education support and attentive teachers. But as soon as he entered Virginia Tech, a sprawling campus of nearly 28,000 students, he lost that support network. His parents, both working long hours in the dry cleaning business, hoped college would draw him out of his cocoon. Instead, Cho's isolation deepened. Early warning signs emerged. In the fall of 2005, Cho's classroom behavior became disturbing to students and teachers. He fixated on female students, leaving strange messages and showing up uninvited. 2 women filed complaints about his unwanted attention, but found him bothersome, not threatening. After the second complaint, campus police instructed him to stop. Hours later, Cho messaged a roommate that he might as well kill himself. This triggered a mental health evaluation and a judge's order for outpatient treatment following a diagnosis of selective mutism and major depression. But no one followed up to ensure he received care, and because he wasn't institutionalized, his name never entered the federal background check system. Cho's writing became increasingly violent and disturbing. In a playwriting class, he submitted 2 one-act plays, Richard McBeef and Mr. Brownstone, filled with violent themes and profanity. One classmate read the play and remarked, "This is the kind of guy who is going to walk into a classroom and start shooting people." English department head Lucinda Roy began tutoring him privately, but grew so concerned she established a code word with her assistant to call security if needed. Cho's behavior grew more erratic. He snapped photos of female classmates under his desk, introduced himself as ? And claimed to be from Mars. He kept to himself, rarely speaking, eating alone in the dining hall, and embracing a subaltern status. By early 2007, Cho's preparations began. On February 9th, he bought a Walther .22 caliber pistol online and picked it up at a pawn shop near campus. In March, he rented a van, then purchased a 9mm Glock 19 for $571 at a Roanoke gun store. He visited shooting ranges, practiced with his weapons, and bought ammunition, chains, and tactical gear. Roommates noticed he'd cut his hair military style and began working out with unusual intensity. The night before the shooting, everything seemed normal. Cho went to bed early, as he often did, and awoke before 5 a.m. He played Shine by Collective Soul, a song about spiritual longing, on repeat. By 7 a.m., he was gone. His first victims were Emily Hilscher and Ryan Clark in West Ambler Johnston Hall. The university, believing it was a domestic dispute, failed to alert the campus about an active shooter. Cho returned to his room, changed clothes, erased his computer files, and mailed a multimedia package to NBC News containing videos, photos, and a 1-800-word manifesto. He ranted about rich kids, debauchery, and praised the Columbine killers as martyrs. At 9:26 a.m., as the campus finally received a vague warning about an incident, Cho entered Norris Hall, wearing cargo pants, a tactical vest, and carrying 2 pistols. He chained the main door shut and began his rampage. In just over 10 minutes, he killed 30 people and wounded 17 others, methodically moving from room to room. Professors and students attempted to barricade doors and jump from windows to escape. Professor Liviu Librescu, a Holocaust survivor, held the door shut while his students fled through windows, sacrificing his life. Air Force ROTC cadet Matthew Laporte charged Cho, dying as he tried to protect his classmates. Police broke through a maintenance door, and as they closed in, Cho shot himself in the head. He fired 174 rounds, but still had 203 left, enough for even more carnage. His silence finally broken, Cho spoke through his videos, shocking everyone who knew him. His sister watched in disbelief, saying, "This is someone that I grew up with and loved. Now I feel like I didn't know this person." The aftermath was chaos. Families searching for answers found a disorganized response and basic information missing. NBC's broadcast of Cho's videos sparked outrage, but also revealed the depth of his resentment and disconnect. The Virginia Tech Review Panel's investigation found multiple failures: the delayed campus warning, misdirected police focus, and a system unable to connect the dots of Cho's deteriorating mental state. In death, Cho forced America to confront the gaps in mental health care, the failures of background check systems, and the challenges of campus security. His legacy, 32 innocent lives taken, 17 wounded, and a nation forever changed, serves as a haunting reminder of what happens when warning signs go unheeded and a troubled mind is left untreated. But the story doesn't end here, as the next case on our list takes us even deeper into the twisted world of school shooters and the dark reality behind these senseless tragedies.
Details are emerging this morning about the gunman. We're piecing together a picture of Adam Lanza, but still left with the question of why he would commit this horrific act, why he would target such small children.
Today, it was shocking to hear a father say that he wished his son had never been born. But the father who said it was Peter Lanza.
December 14th, 2012, Newtown, Connecticut. In less than 5 minutes, 154 shots rang out inside Sandy Hook Elementary School. 20 children, and 6 adults lost their lives. The killer, Adam Lanza, a troubled 20-year-old who had already taken one life that morning before unleashing terror at the school. Adam Lanza's story is not of a sudden snap, but of a long, dark descent. Born in 1992 in New Hampshire, he struggled early with developmental and mental health challenges. Diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome by age 13, Lanza also battled severe anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and later, anorexia nervosa. His social isolation deepened over the years, isolating him from his family and friends. His mother, Nancy, was a gun enthusiast who owned numerous firearms and often took Adam to shooting ranges. Despite this, the relationship between mother and son was complex. She shielded him from stress, but also inadvertently isolated him, creating a symbiotic bond beyond his emotional maturity. That chilling morning, Adam first shot Nancy at their home. Then, driving her car to Sandy Hook, just miles away, he forced his way through the locked front doors armed with a Bushmaster XM15 E2S rifle and multiple magazines. Wearing black clothing with earplugs and sunglasses, He moved quickly and with grim purpose. Inside, the carnage was concentrated in 2 first-grade classrooms. Teachers like Lauren Rousseau and Victoria Lee Soto tried desperately to protect their students, some guiding children into bathrooms or closets. Despite their efforts, 20 children and 6 staff members were killed. Lanza fired repeatedly, reloading often, yet some children survived by hiding or escaping during moments when the rifle jammed or was misloaded. His rampage ended in room 10 when he turned a handgun on himself as police arrived minutes after the shooting began. Investigations revealed no suicide, no clear motive. Authorities found disturbing evidence. A spreadsheet cataloging mass murders, videos of school shootings, and photographs of Lanza pointing guns at his own head, yet no explanation for why he targeted this school or these victims. Mental health experts and the Connecticut office of the Child Advocate later concluded that Lanza's internal struggles, obsessive fascination with violence, and easy access to deadly weapons created a deadly combination. Despite multiple red flags, he had minimal mental health treatment in his final years. The aftermath shook a nation. Sandy Hook closed indefinitely. Survivors relocated to a nearby school. Families filed lawsuits against gun manufacturers and conspiracy theorists spreading falsehoods. The tragedy sparked renewed debates over gun control, mental health care, and school safety. Debates that continue today. And while the town rebuilt, a new Sandy Hook Elementary opened with fortified security. The scars remain. Adam Lanza's final hours left an indelible mark on Newtown and the country, a haunting reminder of how complex and devastating the path to such violence can be. But if you think this was the darkest hour, wait until you hear about the next shooter's final day, a tale that challenges everything we think we know about tragedy and motive.
It's a video which is as haunting as it is troubling. The gunman strolling towards the classroom where he'll murder 19 children and 2 teachers, terrorising many more.
May 24th, 2022. Just before lunchtime at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos entered the building. He carries an AR-15 style rifle, a tactical vest loaded with ammunition, and a backpack. Surveillance cameras capture him casually walking through the halls, moments before he unleashes devastating violence. Ramos grew up in Uvalde, a small city west of San Antonio. He attended Robb Elementary years earlier in the same 4th grade classroom, where he would later commit his horrific act. A loner by most accounts, Salvador was bullied throughout school for his clothes, his family's financial struggles, and his reserved nature. Classmates even gave him the nickname School Shooter long before this tragic day. In the weeks leading up to the attack, Ramos sent alarming messages through social media. He posted images of rifles and ammunition and wrote cryptic warnings like 10 more days. On his 18th birthday, he legally purchased 2 AR-15 style rifles and over 1,600 rounds of ammunition. He bragged about these weapons to friends online and even posted a receipt for one of the rifles on Instagram. That morning, an argument with his grandmother, reportedly over not graduating from high school, escalated violently. Ramos shot her in the face before stealing her truck and driving toward Robb Elementary. She survived, calling for help as he sped away. At 11:28 a.m., Ramos crashed the stolen truck near the school. He emerged firing at 2 funeral home workers who escaped unharmed, then climbed the school fence. He wore all black, boots, cargo pants, and a tactical vest, but no ballistic protection. He carried 730-round magazines, an AR-15 rifle, and a backpack filled with more ammunition. He entered through a door that should have been locked. A teacher had just closed it after seeing him approach, but the lock mechanism failed. Ramos walked past a school resource officer who mistakenly pursued a teacher outside, thinking they were the gunman. Inside, he moved quickly down 2 short hallways and entered classrooms 111 and 112. There he began shooting, first at teachers Irma Garcia and Eva Mireles, then at the 4th grade students. He fired over 100 rounds in just 4 minutes, killing 19 children and both teachers. As the attack unfolded, Ramos played sad music through a portable speaker. He wrote LOL in a victim's blood on the chalkboard. Some students smeared themselves with blood and played dead to survive. One, 11-year-old Maya Cirillo, would later testify before Congress about her experience.
I don't know, but there's a possibility if they had breached that room, my daughter might have survived. Along with, there's quite a bit of others that had non-threatening injuries and just bled to death.
Multiple 911 calls came from inside the classroom, including from teacher Eva Mireles. She called her husband, a school police officer, on scene, but he was restrained by fellow officers and prevented from entering. For 77 agonizing minutes, heavily armed police waited in the hallway as children and teachers bled inside. Ramos fired at officers through the classroom door, grazing two who attempted to approach. Despite having ballistic shields, rifles, and breaching tools, officers waited for a master key, though evidence later showed the door was likely unlocked the entire time. At 12:50 p.m., U.S. Border Patrol agents finally entered. Ramos, hiding in a closet, fired at them before being killed by return fire. By then, 21 innocent lives had been lost and 17 more were wounded. The Uvalde shooting sparked national outrage, not only for the tragic loss of life, but for the failed law enforcement response. It exposed critical failures in school security and active shooter protocols. The investigation revealed systemic issues, failed communication, poor leadership, and a catastrophic breakdown in emergency response. Ramos left behind a digital trail of warning signs, threats against girls on social media, videos of animal abuse, and disturbing messages about violence. Despite these red flags, he legally purchased powerful weapons and carried out one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history. Robb Elementary was permanently closed. The site will be demolished and replaced with a new building. The tragedy led to renewed calls for gun control, including the passage of the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, America's most significant gun reform in decades. The Uvalde shooting remains a stark reminder of the consequences of inaction, both before and during such tragedies. It changed the lives of countless families and forever scarred a community. But even in the face of unimaginable loss, survivors and families continue to fight for change, determined that the lessons of Uvalde will not be forgotten. But if you think the Uvalde response was shocking, wait until you see what happened next in our countdown of infamous school shooters. August 1st, 1966 began like any typical summer day on the University of Texas campus. But by early afternoon, Austin would be forever changed by a tragedy that marked the beginning of the modern era of public mass shootings. The shooter, none other than Charles Whitman. Born in Lake Worth, Florida, Charles Whitman was the eldest of 3 sons in a home dominated by a violent perfectionist father and a devout Catholic mother. As a child, he was brilliant, his IQ measured at 139, and a Star Eagle Scout. But behind closed doors, his father's abuse left deep scars. Whitman's childhood was a masterclass in contradictions. He was praised for his marksmanship while being beaten for minor failures. This tension between achievement and violence would follow him throughout his life. After high school, Whitman joined the Marines, quickly earning a sharpshooter's badge and a scholarship to study mechanical engineering at the University of Texas. On the surface, he was an likable student known for practical jokes, but the darkness lingered. Even in his first year at UT, Whitman reportedly gazed at the university's iconic tower and remarked, "A person could stand off an army from the top of it before they got to him." That chilling observation would prove prophetic. In 1962, Whitman married Kathleen Leisner, a fellow student. The couple seemed happy, but his internal struggles persisted. During their marriage, Whitman struck his wife twice, a fact that haunted him deeply. He desperately feared becoming like his abusive father. By 1966, he was plagued by severe headaches and disturbing thoughts he couldn't control. That spring, Whitman's mother finally left his father after 25 years of abuse. Whitman drove through the night to help her escape, so afraid of his father's violence that he summoned a police officer to stand guard as she packed. His youngest brother moved with their mother to Austin, seeking safety. But Whitman's mental health continued to deteriorate. He saw a campus psychiatrist, Dr. Maurice Heatley, and confessed to violent fantasies and overwhelming pressures. Heatley's notes described Whitman as oozing with hostility and revealed that he'd considered shooting people from the tower's observation deck. The psychiatrist advised him to return for treatment, but Whitman never did. By July 31st, 1966, Whitman's breaking point had arrived. That evening, he typed a suicide note detailing his plans. He confessed his intentions to kill his wife and mother, not out of hatred, but to spare them the embarrassment of what he was about to do. When friends visited that night, they noticed he seemed oddly relieved, as if he'd solved a problem. After they left, Whitman drove his wife home from work. She went to bed, never knowing it would be her last night alive. Shortly after midnight, Whitman went to his mother's apartment and stabbed her to death with a bayonet. He left her body on the bed, covered it with sheets, and wrote a final note beside her. Then he returned home, where he stabbed his sleeping wife through the heart before finishing his suicide ancient note. In both notes, he expressed love for his victims, insisting he acted to spare them humiliation and end his mother's suffering. His anger toward his father, he wrote, was beyond description. The next morning, Whitman began his final preparations. He rented a hand truck, cashed $250 in bad checks, and visited multiple stores to purchase weapons and ammunition. Telling clerks he was going hog hunting in Florida, he bought a universal M1 carbine, extra magazines, and a semi-automatic shotgun. He returned home to saw off the shotgun's barrel and stock. By the time he was done, Whitman had assembled an arsenal: a Remington Model 700 rifle with scope, a .35 caliber Remington rifle, a Luger pistol, a .25 caliber pistol, a .357 Magnum revolver, a sawed-off shotgun, and more than 700 rounds of ammunition. His footlocker also contained food, water, medicine, earplugs, rope, binoculars, and an assortment of knives and tools. He dressed in coveralls to appear like a repairman or janitor, hoping to avoid suspicion. At 11:25 a.m., Whitman arrived at the University of Texas. He showed a false research assistant ID to a guard and obtained a 40-minute parking permit, claiming he was delivering teaching equipment. He wheeled his arsenal toward the main building, apparently timing his entrance to coincide with class changeover for maximum impact. Inside, he convinced an employee to activate the elevator to the 27th floor. On the observation deck level, he bleeped receptionist Edna Townsley with his rifle, killing her. He then encountered a young couple, Donald Walden and Cheryl Botts, who greeted him politely, unaware they'd narrowly escaped death. Whitman constructed a barricade using Townsley's desk and furniture, then prepared to begin his attack. At 11:48 a.m., Whitman opened fire from the observation deck, 231 feet above the campus. His first victim was an 18-year-old pregnant woman. Over the next 96 minutes, he killed 15 people and wounded 31 others. His targets were random students, faculty, and passers-by. The campus was thrown into chaos as people realized the gunfire was real. Police and armed civilians returned fire, forcing Whitman to stay low and shoot mostly through the observation deck's drainage holes. He managed to kill police officer Billy Speed, shooting through a 6-inch gap between columns. As the siege dragged on, police coordinated their assault. Austin police officer Ramiro Martinez and civilian Alan Crum reached the observation deck, joined by Officer Houston McCoy. At 1:24 p.m., the end came. Martinez rushed Whitman, firing his revolver and missing. McCoy fired his shotgun, hitting Whitman between the eyes and killing him instantly. Martinez then took McCoy's shotgun and fired a final blast into Whitman's left arm, ensuring he was dead. The aftermath was a city in shock. The campus closed for a day, flags flew at half-staff, and the observation deck was closed until 1968. Whitman's autopsy revealed a pecan-sized brain tumor near his amygdala, though experts disagree on its role in his violent behavior. His body was buried in Florida alongside his mother. The tragedy led to significant changes in campus security and police training nationwide. Today, a memorial garden stands near the tower, and the observation deck is open only for guided tours. The Texas Tower shooting remains a grim milestone in American history, the beginning of a new, tragic era. Whitman's final 24 hours showed the deadly combination of untreated mental illness, access to deadly weapons, and a troubled childhood. His actions changed the way America viewed public safety forever. But the next story in our journey through the final 24 hours of infamous shooters takes us to a different time, a new motive, and even more devastating consequences. I'm talking about the deadly Columbine school shooting. (1999) Columbine, Colorado. Just before noon on April 20th, 2 high school seniors would unleash a tragedy that changed America forever. The plan was meticulous, designed for maximum devastation, but only partially executed. Their final 24 hours reveal not just the technical details, but the psychological spiral that led to a national nightmare. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were not the outcasts many later believed. Eric, the cool brain, had friends, dated, and partied. He worked hard on his military chic look and blasted German industrial rock from his Honda. Dylan, taller and academically gifted, was painfully shy but still found camaraderie in school events and football games. They attended sports games, dances, and variety shows together, rarely showing the darkness lurking beneath. 3 days before the attack, both attended prom. Dylan surprisingly had a date. Robin Anderson, a sweet Christian girl. He was giddy, talking of college and the future he'd never see. Eric, always the planner, hid his drinking from his parents but managed to maintain the appearance of an obedient son. Yet behind this facade, a different plan was unfolding. That morning, Dylan left home by 5:30 a.m. while his parents slept. He met Eric at a grocery store where they acquired the last of the propane tanks. Their arsenal had been hidden in Eric's bedroom closet, and the day's schedule was precise. They first planted a decoy bomb in a nearby park, hoping to divert police attention. It was a psychological test for Dylan, whose resolve apparently wavered. The main event was scripted in 3 acts. First, massive explosions in the crowded cafeteria, timed for 11:17 a.m., meant to kill over 600 students. Then, as survivors fled, Eric and Dylan would target them at the exits. Finally, car bombs set for noon would kill first responders and journalists. Their goal, a body count in the thousands. But the cafeteria bombs failed to detonate. Instead of the planned massacre, only a handful of students were caught in the initial attack. Panic spread, but their original plan had already failed. Eric, the unflappable leader, quickly shifted to Plan B. Dylan, always more hesitant, followed his lead. The pair moved through the building, targeting students and teachers. In just minutes, they killed 12 students and a teacher, injuring 23 more. Their rampage was chaotic, lacking the military precision Eric envisioned. By 12:08 p.m., both were dead by suicide in the library. The final toll, 13 dead, 23 wounded, was far less than their original plan, but still devastating. The investigation revealed years of planning. Both left extensive journals and videos, the infamous basement tapes, explaining their motives and methods. Eric, diagnosed posthumously as a psychopath, reveled in control and manipulation. Dylan, a depressive personality, seemed caught between his religious beliefs and self-hatred. Their relationship was complex. Dylan often sought Eric's approval, acting tough on video but always glancing for validation. Eric, always in control, directed the tapes and the plan. Dylan's journal, beginning years before Eric's, showed a slow descent into depression and suicidal thoughts. Eric's, by contrast, began with violence and ended with murder. Both had been in trouble before, arrested for breaking into a van to steal electronics. They completed a juvenile program with glowing reviews just 10 weeks before the attack. Dylan had been accepted to several colleges and recently chose his University of Arizona dorm room. The aftermath was immediate and lasting. The media frenzy created a national panic about school shootings. Myths spread about their motives: bullying, music, video games. But the truth was more complicated. Eric wanted to kickstart a revolution. Dylan sought relief from his inner torment. Their parents, initially in denial, eventually accepted their son's responsibility. Sue Klebold, Dylan's mother, became a mental health advocate, while both families contributed over $1.5 million to victim settlements. And just like that, what began as a calculated plan for mass destruction ended in chaos and suicide. Their final 24 hours reveal not just the technical details, but the psychological spiral that led to a national tragedy.